Hey everyone, so this video is going to be a little bit different from the videos that I've been normally posting, but I want to branch out a little bit. And one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is films that I would love to see on Criterion Blu-ray. There are a couple of them that are out on Blu-ray right now, but have very no extras, no special features on them, and I would love to see a really good well thought out presentation with some extra documentaries or supplemental materials or something, the kind of thing that Criterion does. Other films on this list have never been released on Blu-ray at all, and one or two have been released on Blu-ray but are now out of print, and for whatever reason don't look like they're ever going to come into print anytime soon, but really should be seen, I think. And I would hope that Criterion would pick these up because I think that they're important. So the first film on my list is one that has been released on DVD but has never been released on Blu-ray before, and that is John Cassavetes' Husbands. This film is easily one of Cassavetes' best, but at the same time, it is not in the box set that Criterion released that had Shadows, Faces, A Woman Under the Influence, Opening Night, and Killing of a Chinese Bookie. They also released Love Streams, which was Cassavetes' last film, but Husbands, still no Criterion Blu-ray. And I think that that's a travesty. This is easily one of his best films. I understand that, it's owned by Columbia Pictures and Sony, and maybe that's part of the reason why they had trouble getting it into the box set. But I hope that at some point in time, Criterion can talk to Columbia, can talk to Sony, and can get this out on just a really awesome Blu-ray, and maybe have some extra supplemental materials. I mean, pretty much everybody who was involved in this in front of the camera has unfortunately passed away, but there are still historians left over who could talk about this film, and I just would love to see an awesome Blu-ray come out of this. My second film on the list is Steven Soderbergh's The Limey. This was released on DVD back in, I guess, the early 2000s, whenever the movie came out on home video. Artisan released it on DVD, and the movie is just absolutely incredible. I think it's one of Soderbergh's masterpieces. It's up there with all of his best films, and I just don't understand why it was never released on Blu-ray. I know that they kind of saturated the DVD market with it, and you can pick up the DVD for literally $4 or $5, or maybe a little bit more if you want one in really good shape. But you can pick it up. You can still pick up the DVD for pretty cheap. But I would love to see a Blu-ray of this because it's so beautifully shot, and everything about this film is just absolutely fantastic. From the directing to the writing, to the acting, to the score, the cinematography, the editing. It's just literally, it is a perfect film. The Limey is a perfect film. And it's just one of several perfect films by Steven Soderbergh, which is crazy to think about. But Criterion already has several Steven Soderbergh films out in their collection, and I would love it if they would add this one to it, because it is just, I would say that it's, I know that Criterion has Traffic on Blu-ray. I would say that The Limey is actually better than Traffic. So Criterion, if you have the chance, I wish you would just grab The Limey and put it out on Blu-ray. It's such a good movie, and it deserves it. It deserves that treatment. Number 3 on my list is Roman Coppola's feature, CQ. Now, you've got some Francis Ford Coppola, you've got the Sofia Coppola. It's time, Criterion. It's time for you to put out a Roman Coppola film on the Criterion collection. This got released on DVD. I still have my DVD. I didn't want to get rid of it until I knew absolutely for sure that there was going to be a Blu-ray. There's a couple of DVDs that I got rid of that I wish I would have waited on, but unfortunately I didn't. But this one I kept around because I love it so much. I think it's a fantastic film. It is a modern, it's a modern take on that world of the 60s, that European world of the 60s, and sort of like Roger Corman-esque cinema, and, you know, finding yourself in the world of cinema and where you belong and all of that, and, you know, being in the right place at the right time. It's just so, there's just so many things to CQ that make it amazing. And it's definitely Roman Coppola's best feature film. It's just a perfect mixture of everything. And I hope that they would consider putting this out on Blu-ray, because honestly, I don't think MGM ever will. So, Criterion, please make a CQ Blu-ray happen. You got to get that Coppola trifecta going on, and this is going to help you do it right here. Okay, next up on the list, number 4, is Shane Carruth's Primer. This film is absolutely one of the best American independent films ever made, period. It was made on $7,000 for its initial production budget. I think that ballooned up to like $40,000 by the time they had gone through festivals and they had to like prepare it for distribution to theaters. I remember going to Regal Green Hills in Nashville when I was still going to film school and seeing this in the theater, and it blew my mind. And it still blows my mind all these years later. It is an unbelievable film. It's an unbelievable experience. I can't think of another, definitely not another independent film that has struck me the way that this one has. Upstream Color is great. That's the film that Shane Carruth made after this one. But Primer is just like, it will blow your mind. It will blow your freaking mind. And Criterion, I feel like this is just a necessity for you guys. Like, you need to have this in the collection. There's never been a Blu-ray of it. There's not even a DVD of it anymore. It's out of print. I think you can buy a digital copy directly from Shane Carruth, the Shane Carruth website or whatever. But there needs to be a Blu-ray of this with, you know, commentary tracks and interviews and like everything. Like, this deserves a big release. It is awesome. Please, please, please put it out. Number 5 on the list is one that does have a Blu-ray already, but it's a pretty bare bones Blu-ray, and that is William Friedkin's Sorcerer. Sorcerer is one of Friedkin's best films. It's one of his most underseen films, and if it was on the Criterion collection, I think more people would check it out. This film came out the same summer that Star Wars did, and it got buried. Star Wars just buried this film. And people were at a point where they had seen a lot of like supernatural films. The Exorcist, which was also Friedkin's film, had touched off a lot of like supernatural films coming out from Hollywood. Varying quality on a lot of them, and because this film was called Sorcerer, a lot of people stayed away from it, even though it has nothing to do with, like, you know, magic or witchcraft or supernatural or anything like that. This is a remake or maybe a reimagining of the famous French film Wages of Fear, and it's not only one of Friedkin's best films, but it's just one of the best films of the 70s. It's one of the best films, period. This is unbelievably thrilling to watch, especially on a big screen. But for those of us who can't watch it on the big screen, a Blu-ray is the next best thing. The quality on this Blu-ray is like, it's pretty good, but there are no extras. There's nothing on it. Criterion, you have a chance to grab Friedkin, get him in there, make a documentary about it, grab the crew, anybody who's still around, make this happen. This is one that needs to be released by you guys. Absolutely. This is one of the best films of its era and one of the best films, period. So let's make Sorcerer on Criterion happen. The next film on my list also has a Blu-ray release, and the reason why I'm actually making this list is because there was a news story recently in which this film was being talked about, and the director was asked, why is this not on Criterion? And his answer was, I don't think that they're interested in it, but I think that that was taken from an interview from a while back. But anyway, The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is one of the greatest pieces of American cinema ever made. Oddly enough, directed by an Australian, photographed by an Englishman, but it is absolutely American in every way, shape, or form. It is one of the best modern Westerns ever made. It is an unbelievably remarkable piece of cinema. And the Blu-ray brings out its beauty, and it's a good starting off point, this Blu-ray. And it has a making of, and it's perfectly acceptable, but I feel like Criterion could do better. Everybody involved in this is still around. You could have interviews with Andrew Dominik, the director, Roger Deakins, the cinematographer, Brad Pitt, Casey Affleck, Pat Healy. But yeah, there's just an amazing cast in this, and they're here, they're around. It's been a while. It's been a decade or so. Okay, so this was originally released in 2008, so it's been a little over a decade. It's a great time to go in and do retrospective interviews and, you know, get people's opinion on the legacy of this film. But I agree with the writer of the story that I originally wrote. It's like, yes, this should be on Criterion. And I hope that at some point in time, you guys seriously consider this, because I would love, love, love to pay $35 or $40 to get a Criterion version of this. I'd probably still keep this one, but, you know, I'd love to get a Criterion version. Number 7 on the list, I don't have a copy of because for some reason, DVD and Blu-ray copies are both out of print and very expensive, which is why I think, one of the reasons why I think it's perfect for a Criterion edition. And that is Near Dark. Near Dark was written by Catherine Bigelow and Eric Red and was directed by Catherine Bigelow. Near Dark is about a guy who's basically out on the town looking to find a girl. He meets a beautiful woman who wants to take him back to her place, and he ends up getting bitten by her. She's a vampire, and he ends up being mixed up with a pretty violent and insane group of vampires that are kind of tearing their way through, you know, the middle of America. This film is a classic, and I don't know why the DVD or Blu-ray is out of print at this point. It seems very odd to me. It's a great film, and it's a great piece of work by Bigelow. And it's such a singular piece of work too, because I feel like it's completely different from anything else that she's ever really done, because most of her stuff is sort of like, you know, sort of centers around like, you know, just like action and sort of like raw male energy, you know, like Point Break and The Hurt Locker, and just all these movies that are just like, you know, war and adrenaline and all this, you know, all this kind of stuff. Near Dark is definitely an action film, but being that it's about vampires, it's more of like a horror and thriller film, and I think it's underrated, and I think it deserves to be seen by more people, and people can't see it when it's not available. And you know, you guys don't have any Catherine Bigelow movies on your list. I think Near Dark would be the perfect first one to put on there. So that's why my number 7 choice is Near Dark. Okay, number 8 on this list, we're rounding it out. Number 8 is one that you guys have already released on DVD. It's Katsopolis. I still have my DVD. This is one of my favorite Steven Soderbergh movies. It's just one of my favorite movies in general. It is awesome and hilarious and original and just such a weird movie, and so great because it's so weird. And I'm just hoping that at some point in time this guy will get an upgrade. Maybe you'll do a 2K or a 4K restoration on it and release a DVD or release a Blu-ray. The DVD is pretty good and I like all the special features, but it would be nice to get that full 1080p Blu-ray action on this one. So that's why it's number 8 on the list. Number 9 on the list is Andrew Dominik's debut feature film. We had Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford at number 6, and number 9 is Chopper. Chopper is completely out of print on DVD and has never been on Blu-ray before. This movie is so funny and so original. It's Andrew Dominik's first film. It's the film that broke out Eric Bana as like a star, and Eric Bana is like so amazing in this. And I just feel like Chopper is the kind of movie that you don't see very often, which I think is the perfect reason to put it out on Criterion. Like Primer, it's an amazing debut film, an amazing independent debut film. And, you know, I don't think that you have a lot of Australian cinema on the Criterion Collection, and Chopper is Australian cinema. So this would be a good point to get your feet wet on that. So that's my number 9, Chopper, Andrew Dominik. I want to see more Andrew Dominik on the Criterion Collection. And so the final film on my list, my top 10 list of films that I would love to see on Criterion Blu-ray, is Barry Jenkins' debut film, Medicine for Melancholy. Medicine for Melancholy came out on DVD many, many years ago when it was released for home video. And I believe that DVD is long out of print at this point. It's never been released on Blu-ray. And I just think a good, clean 1080p Blu-ray of that movie would just look phenomenal. I think that Barry Jenkins is one of the greatest living American filmmakers right now. I mean, Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk are just two of the most beautiful films that I have probably ever seen in my life. And Medicine for Melancholy is like, it's right up there. As a debut feature, it already shows his uncanny ability to work this sort of like romantic angle with his characters, even when they're mad at each other, even when the world is not working out for them, even when things are not going their way. There's this sort of like beauty and romance that just like is over the whole thing. And I think that Medicine for Melancholy is like this perfect jumping off point for him. And I just feel like because of that, it would be a travesty that it's not on the Criterion Collection. It's just this beautiful American independent film made by a very small dedicated group of people, and I just think it's perfect for that collection. So that's my list. Husbands, The Limey, CQ, Primer, Sorcerer, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, Near Dark, Katsopolis, Chopper, and Medicine for Melancholy. So Criterion, if you ever see this, I hope that you give consideration to all of those films. I think they would make fantastic additions to the collection and would look gorgeous on Criterion Blu-ray.